What's up everybody? In this video tutorial I am going to be teaching you how to implement a pop-up view using Swift 4 for your iOS apps. So it's going to look something like this. We're going to hit that show pop-up view button. Our background is going to get blurred out, and then we're going to get this pop-up window showing up with some kind of message and a button to dismiss it. I'm also going to be showing you how to pass data to this pop-up window so that you guys can configure whatever functionality you would like to give, like a success message, an error message, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started with the code. We are going to open up Xcode, create a new Xcode project, single view app. Let's call this pop-up window and hit create. Okay, I got to fix my signing really quick. Now let's get started. So let's hop into our view controller. I'm going to move this window over. We can go ahead and delete this comment. Now we need to get that background color of that blue that we have in our completed app. So let's say view.background color, and I have this copy and pasted here. You guys can just go ahead and write this function out and copy the values, and it's going to give you that blue background. And then what we're going to do is get our white status bar. So we're going to say preferred status bar style, open close bracket, return.light content. And let's go ahead and run our app and see how it looks. Should look just like this. And that's looking good, guys. Now let's go ahead and start making this button. Quick note, I actually don't use storyboards. I construct my views programmatically. There's a lot of advantages to it. I'm not going to get into it here. You guys feel free to Google it, but you'll see it a lot in the professional world, and there's just a lot of advantages to doing that over using storyboards, even though it is a little bit of extra effort. So let's go ahead and make this button. I also create marks to organize my code. So we're going to say let button colon UI button equal open close bracket, that button equal UI button type dot system return button. Okay, so now let's start configuring this button. We're going to say button dot background color equals dot white, button dot set title label or set title is going to be show pop up window dot normal, button dot set title color. And because we're using this color multiple times, guys, we're going to go ahead and create an extension here for UI color. This is a cool little trick that avoids you having to copy and paste these red, green, blue values all the time. So we're just going to say static func main blue, and it's going to return a UI color, and we're going to say return this guy here. So now what we'll be able to do is actually replace this with dot main blue, and everywhere we want that blue to be used, we can go ahead and use that UI color dot main blue. So that's a cool trick if you ever want to if you ever have colors being used in multiple places. And then we're going to add a target, which is going to be our action handler, selector, handle, show pop up, and this is going to be dot touch up inside. Let's go ahead and create this function. Mark selectors at Objective-C func handle show pop up. For now we're just going to say show pop up window. Okay, and let's make our init mark here just to keep the code nice, clean, and organized. That way, guys, when you go up here, all your stuff is sectioned off really nicely. Okay, now let's add this button to our view. So we're going to say view.add subview button. We're going to then we're just going to center it in our view. As you can see, that's what's happening here. A couple more things we need to do after we do that though, so bear with me. Button dot center y anchor dot constraint, and select this option here equal to ns layout anchor. We're going to say view dot center y anchor is active. Ooh, no, sorry. Then we go outside the parentheses, say dot is active equals true. And just go ahead and copy and paste this, and we're just going to change that Y to an X. That's going to center it. in our X axis, and then we need a width and a height. So we're going to say button.height anchor dot constraint equal to constant. Make sure you do equal to constant there. We're going to make that 50 pixels tall. Dot is active equals true. And then let's do the same thing for width. Width anchor equal to constant. This is going to be equal to view.frame.width minus 32. Okay, so that's all we need to do to add our subview, but we need to, I forgot a couple properties up here. We want to say button.translates auto resizing mask into constraints is false. If you don't do this, your view will not get added to the subview. Then we're going to say button.layer.corner radius equals 5. Okay guys, so essentially we just centered this button, gave it 16 pixels of space on either side, and rounded the edges out there. So let's go ahead and run our code and see if that button is rendering properly. And that's looking really good. And when we hit it, as you can see in our console here, it's saying show pop-up window. So now let's actually start writing the code to configure our pop-up window. So we're going to create a subclass for that. That's just the most professional, kind of most robust way to do it. You could write it in your view controller file, but if you were to want to use that this pop-up window in any of your other classes, you would have to subclass it out like we're doing here. So it's better to do it that way. Make sure it's a subclass of UI view. And let's go ahead and start configuring this out. So we're going to say mark properties, mark init. So type out init and make sure you get that frame in there, and then say super.init frame, which is the frame. And then let's just make the background color white. Okay. And let's implement this required initializer. Okay, so we're going to add our properties there later. Now let's go ahead and instantiate that. So all we're going to do is go here and say let pop up window be of type pop-up window equal open close bracket, and we'll say let view equal pop-up window return view, and then we're going to say view.translates auto resize masking constraints equals false. And that's all we need to do for now. Now let's add it to, actually we only want to add that sub view once we press that button, but let's just add it in for now to our view.load to see what it looks like. Okay, so we're going to say view.add subview pop-up window, and we're just going to center it like this, guys, just like we did that button. And I found it looks better when we move it up like 40 pixels. So in your center Y anchor, just type comma constant and write that code out there. And then we also need a width and height constraint for it. So go ahead and copy those as well. Just replace button with pop-up window. And this is going to be equal to view.frame.width minus 64 for both of the width and height. That way it's a perfect square. Okay, and we also need to round out our edges, so we're going to say view.layer.corner radius equals 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if that is getting added to our subview, or that subview is getting added to our view, sorry. And there it is right there. So that's what our pop-up view is going to look like. But again, we only want that to come up once we press that button. So let's go ahead and just cut this code out of here and put it in there. Okay, so when we press that button, it's now going to show that pop-up. Now we need to create our blur effect view. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say let visual effect view, UI visual effect view equal this. Let just say let view equal visual effect view. And we need to pass in an effect. So we're going to say let blur effect equal UI blur effect style, and we're going to say dot light, and then just pass that blur effect in there. Then we're going to return, and we need to say view dot translates that into is false, and then we're going to return our view. Okay, so let's go ahead and add this visual effect view to our sub view here. Visual effect view, and we're going to pin that to the edges, so it's going to be left, right, top, and bottom. So this is what this is going to look like. Visual effect view dot left anchor dot constraint. So go to view dot left anchor dot is active equals true. And to get the rest of them, guys, pretty simple. Just go ahead and copy and paste that 3 more times and say bottom anchor, right anchor, and top anchor, and then go ahead and add those values into our parentheses as well. And that's all we need to do to add our visual effect view. Let's see if that's looking good. And that is looking good there, guys. And what we're going to do is we want to hide that. So we're going to say visual effect view dot alpha equals 0. Okay, that's essentially the same thing as is hidden. But you'll see why we do alpha here in a second. So now if we were to run our project, we would not see that visual effect view there. So now we can go ahead and start configuring out our pop-up window. So if you guys remember, it's going to have this like success message, this check mark, and this OK button. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say let button, and we can just go ahead and copy our button from here. It's basically the exact same thing, just with different colors. So our message is going to be OK. Our background color is going to be .white. Oops. Yeah, we want the title. Yeah, we want the title color to be white, and we want our background color to be that main blue. So this is where that extension comes in handy. We can just write that UI color.main blue right there. And let's go ahead and write out our target handler. So we're going to say handle dismissal here. Func handle dismissal. Oops. Print dismiss pop-up. Okay, guys, now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and add our other 2 subviews in, that check mark and that success message. And I actually have those, I'm just going to copy and paste them from my completed project to save us some time here. You guys can go and pause the video right now and write all this stuff out. To get this check mark here, you just go up to edit, emojis and symbols, and then just start typing out check mark, and you're going to select that guy right there. And that's if you want to add this UI in. And now I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the constraints as well. It just doesn't make sense for me to sit here and type it all out with you guys, because I did it earlier and I think you get the idea. Just got to change this really quick. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this now and see what our code is looking like. It should look just like this, and that's looking really good. So now let's go ahead and hop into our view controller and actually start writing out the functionality to get this pop-up to fade in, right? So we're going to say pop-up window dot transform equals CG affine transform. And you can see what this does up here. It applies a transformation matrix, which is going to give us that sort of fade in method. So the scale X and scale Y, we're going to say 1.3 for both. And then we're going to say pop-up window dot alpha equals 0. And then we're going to go down here and say UI view dot animate with duration. And it's going to be 0.5. Animations, hit enter on that block. And we are going to say self.visualEffectView.alpha equals 1, self.popupWindow.alpha equals 1, and popupWindow.transform equals CG affine transform.identity. Right, so essentially that's just going to give it its identity dimension aspects essentially. So we start out by saying it's scaled up by 1.3 on in both X and Y axes, and then by the time this animation is done, we just want it to be its identity transform, right? So let's go ahead and see what that looks like now. So that's looking really good, guys. It fades in nicely, and we get that nice blur effect view in the background. Now we need to figure out how we're going to dismiss this pop-up view, right? So we're actually going to create a protocol and use a delegate to do that. It sort of conforms to the model view controller principles of programming, and if you guys don't understand that, I recommend looking it up because I'm not going to get into an explanation of it here. So essentially just go back to our pop-up window, go up under UI kit, and we're going to create a protocol called pop-up delegate, and it's going to contain a function called handle dismissal. Right? Essentially, we want the code for this dismissal handling to be written in our view controller, not in this view, right? So now we need to create a delegate called pop-up delegate of type pop-up delegate, make it optional, and then in our handler here, we're going to say delegate.dismiss or handle dismissal. And you guys will notice that once this method gets called, it's going to go find that handle dismissal function, which we're going to write in our view controller file as part of an extension, and that code will then be executed. Extension view controller pop-up delegate, and then it's going to ask us to implement that method we created. Okay, so it's going to be pretty easy, guys. We're going to call this UIView.animate function again. It said this time we're going to use a completion block. So we're going to say 0.5 animations, hit enter, and then hit enter on the completion block. And we don't need that Boolean variable, so just put an underscore in. Okay, now our animations are going to be all of these guys, and it's just going to be resetting them back to what they originally were. So that visual effect view alpha is going to be 0, pop-up window alpha is going to be 0, and this fade out, we want this guy here in order to fade it out the same way we faded it in, right? So now with our completion, we want to remove that pop-up window from our super view. So we're going to say self.popupWindow.remove from super view, okay? And then let's just do a print statement saying did remove pop-up window. So you can see that only once that pop-up window is finished animating, then we're going to get this message, and it's going to remove it from the super view, and then when we press that button, it'll add it to our sub view again, because we don't want to keep adding it over and over again without removing it. It's going to take up a lot of memory, right? So let's go ahead now, and we need to actually set our delegate in our pop-up window. So wherever we instantiate our pop-up window, which is up here, we're going to say view.delegate equals self, and it's not going to let us do that because it's a constant, so we need to declare it as a lazy var. Okay, and now go ahead and run our project. Hit that, and then hit OK, and it fades out very nicely. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much it. If you want to stick around for passing data into this so that it shows an error message or a success message, stick around. If not, that's essentially it for creating a pop-up window in Swift. But I'm now going to jump back into the code, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to create a variable in our pop-up window, and it's going to be called should show success, or let's just say show success message. And it's going to be a Boolean, make it optional, and type out did set. So we're going to set this variable in our view controller when we instantiate this pop-up window, and whenever that variable gets set, this code will then execute. So because it's optional, we need to unwrap it. Success equals should show success, or show success message, sorry, else return. Okay, now we're going to say if success and then else, right? So if it's successful, then we want that check mark. So we're going to say check label.text equals, and we can just cut that out. And then we want this text color here. So let's cut that out as well. Check label.text color. Oops. Right, and then we want our notification label to say success. So go ahead and cut that out as well. Notification label.text to be success. Okay, and then what we want to do if it's an error is just go ahead and copy and paste this stuff, guys. And let's go up here. And we can just type out, actually just put an X there. And then we'll have this say error. And then this is just going to be .red. Okay, so now we need to set this message, right? That's when this did set method will get called. So go back to our view controller. And let's see, handle show pop-up. We're going to say pop-up window dot show success message equals false. Okay, and then it's going to essentially go here and say it's false. Okay, then we're going to configure it out to have our error functionality. And if you want to get it to alternate between the two, like this, it's pretty simple. Just go ahead up here and create a variable. Oh, sorry, go to our view controller. Let's create a variable called success. And let's just set it equal to true, right? And then set this pop-up window, that guy, equal to that success, which is that Boolean variable we just created. And then we're just going to say success equals the opposite of success. So essentially every time we press this button, it's going to toggle that value back and forth between true and false. Actually, let's go ahead and put it that first. So it starts out as true. It's going to show us that success is true. Then it's going to change success from true to false. Then the next time we handle that show pop-up, success is going to be false. So it's going to show our error message. So let's go ahead and make sure that's working. And essentially, guys, that's just how you pass in a value to sort of like your pop-up window or whatever subclass you have. And we can see it's working. So that's looking really good there, guys. Thanks for watching. If you guys liked it, don't forget to hit subscribe. And the link for the source code is going to be in the description. I have this project on GitHub. Hope you guys liked it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. See ya.